Portals and the LLM. Okay, Betsy, warning, new material. I got all of this material on this Sabbath. So between last night at sunset, sun just went down here in Sedona. It's 5:45 now. Sun's behind Mingus Mountain. And the Holy Spirit and this Sabbath has really given me a new neural network. I mean, I've written at this point, you can see this video alone, almost 5,000 words, 4985. And the second video I wrote all day today during the Sabbath is also right now hovering around 5,000. And that video is called The Living Word, so I'll be uploading that tomorrow. But portals, so I'm going to be talking about this portal right here, Dyatlov Pass. It's at the first ice wall. Yes, there's many ice walls. But you and I think Earth is just 7 continents surrounded by the ice walls of Antarctica. This, I cut off the KN, but this is the known land. This is what we know of. And I have it playing here on my portal. But let me show you here. Let me take this down and show you 4895. Okay, so that, or I'm sorry, 4985. So I feel the Holy Spirit is affirming my work here today. So 4985, you can see what that word is. I can't pronounce it. It means to become or sweet or pleasant. Or in the Greek, somatikos, is that correct? So, where it is used to describe the nature of Christ. So, I feel okay with putting this content out. And there was the dome worlds, right there. There's the dome worlds. Okay, so let's get into portals and what the heck is an LLM. So an LLM means large language model. So when AI is researching us, listening to us, building itself around us, that's the language AI uses. So we need to get to understand that language. You can't fight what you don't know. So I'm going to be diving into a lot about portals and LLM, large language models. Now, they are one of the biggest. So they are one of the biggest. The biggest LLM we have been following, right, is found in Genesis 3, the story of Adam and Eve. That is, who actually was in the garden, what little g God was in the garden, wanting to keep us in a constant state of, in other words, the little g God in the garden wants only to keep us in a constant state of survival, all-consuming chore, right? Chores from birth to death. We got kicked out of the garden. The rebellion started in the garden. Trust me, you got to take everything this dome has put into the collective psyche and turn it upside down and inside out. Because everything in this dome is a lie. So, also, what this dome promotes and fosters is a constant state of war. Why? Well, because war requires large-scale resources, right, and offer nothing to quality of life. Unlike given to the Genesis 1, day 6 people. So just like we, source humans, Adamites, Adamic race, we have real power. We have this source in us, right? We came together, we united in truth, and we started building the Tower of Babel. Look what we could do. Once you are united in truth, right, you turn back on your telepathy, all of your source-given abilities, supernatural, right? We tried to overthrow the demiurge, the little g gods, that have war and oppression upon us. Uh-oh, I didn't start the fire, Betsy. There you go. Now it's warming up. Okay, so we got to get back our true power, right? That's what Jesus came to tell us, right? He told us we could do more than he could do. It's the distortions of the hive dome that makes us all believe that the snake in the garden was Satan. But when you read it on a Sabbath without the distortions, you'll see something different. Read it for what it is and not the indoctrination. All right, we just assume because it's a serpent that it was Satan. But now read it without the distortions, right, that's coming out of the plasma fields affecting your magnetic and electrical nervous system, affecting your mind. Okay, I'm going to talk more on a bit on that. Now, I showed you a picture of the Diatollah Pass. It is one of the most famous stories of people accidentally getting caught up in a portal. They did not know about it. They did not understand how to use it. If they did, it would have got them into the dome worlds outside of the ice walls of the Antarctica. So it would have got them out of this dome. Now, not that they would know how to use the other domes or how to enter into the other domes or anything like that. But the point is, they would have escaped this world, as have many people. I have read as many books as I could find of people that have gone past the ice walls, right? And from about 1200 on until it got shut down. But there is plenty of books that you can read about people that have ventured into other dome worlds, other oceans, and other suns. It's there to be found. So, but the point of this is that portals are coming. More portals than what the little g gods and the NHI have created. Your own portals that you have made, all of your imaginations, those portals are coming. That's really what this is about. And it's about the LLM. So when you see a portal, don't go through it. I have people all the time see pictures of portals that I take all the time. And it's like, can you take me to there? I want to go in one. No, you do not want to go in one unless you have some NHI, non-human intelligences, that understand them and know how to work them. Of course, I've been through tons of portals into other dome worlds, but I didn't do it on my own. I was assisted. I've been assisted my whole life here in the supernatural. You have to know how to navigate these things because soon, again, they're going to be opening up in your living room. They're going to be opening up in your yards, in your neighborhoods, right? They will be everywhere all at once. We source humans have made them by our imaginations. We create alternate realities with all of our thought forms. Every thought has life. It has a world, it has a dimension, it has its own reality. It's building, creating its own karma. That is until you know. Once you know, it all collapses. As long as you're taking the Sabbath, right? You're bringing the Sabbath, the energy of the Sabbath, through all of your heart and mind with intention. With intention from your spirit and your soul. The Sabbath is your only way out of this mind trap hive. So as the pole shift, which always happens, as the pole shift nears, you will see these portals open. And no, again, it's not cool to stick your hand into one. Don't send anything into them, right? But you will be pulled by plasma that you cannot see, right? You'll be attracted. You'll be magnetically, electrically pulled towards. The hum will get louder. Now you can't see, there's going to come a point, you can't see the plasma fields right now that are driving you. There's going to come a point where that's going to collapse. And you will see these plasma fields. So, The LLM. So let's remember. I'm going to talk more on that in a minute. Let me first talk about the Dietol Pass. Let's remember the 9 hikers and who innocently happened into one such very powerful portal, because it is the opening to the other dome worlds. So it's the most powerful. And again, put there by little g gods, I call the custodians, who come into our dome world from time to time and check on us. You know, we in other words, look at the Babel story, the Tower of Babel story, and look how many years they weren't watching us, and we got that tower, you know, as high as we did. They're going to be coming back in. They're going to be opening these portals, and they're going to be coming back in. They do that from time to time. All right, so the Dietol Pass hikers, brief description. January 23rd, 1959, 10 hikers set out for a winter trek through Russia's Ural, U-R-A-L, mountains. One of the hikers had to leave the group after several days for medical reasons, but the other 9 continued along their path that they, you know, mapped out. They planned to send a message back to the sports club about 3 weeks after taking off. So when the club did not hear from them by February 20th, a search party set out to find the hikers. Over the next couple of weeks, the search party found the first 5 of the hikers' bodies. Again, they were all dead. They were spread out over the snow. They were in various states of dress, mostly naked. They had very bizarre, unexplainable injuries, not by animals of any type, with one appearing to have bitten off part of his fingers. Months later, after the snow melt, again, investigators discovered the bodies of the remaining 4 hikers. They had even more unexplained injuries. One had a fractured skull, another had a twisted neck, 2 were missing their eyes. One of the bodies with no eyes was also missing her tongue. So gruesome, I know, but that was the fate of the 9 hikers who stumbled into the Dietol Pass portal. So it generated a lot of theories, ranging from natural disasters to secret weapons testings to attack by Yetis. Some theories are more, you know, plausible than others, but the Dietol Pass incident is still a known and much really loved, talked about, unsolved mystery today. All right, this takes me forward to the IDP and the gateways. So portals, called portals, are also known as gateways. IDP means Invisible Dome Project. So the Invisible Dome Project, IDP, is part of us. It is our timekeeper. It tracks all of the atomites. For those of us, few as there are, we Adamics have a soul which has a high frequency, the highest of all the humans. So we are tracked. For we are the target. We must not wake up and stop the IDP idolatry. This is where the LLM is going to come into. We're going to have to come to a huge collective understanding that listening to and participating in large language model, LLM, is idolatry. Again, I'll get in more details. So we got to stop the IDP idolatry and the rituals that the day 6 people perform. All right, they are not tracked by the IDP. They're simply programmed life forms, PLF, to keep the entire simulation intact. And of course, you know this, I've said it in a million videos, for loosh. They need the Adamics. They are the background people, the NPCs. Once we know this and how to use our God-given dome correctly, like Jesus did, we reclaim our source kingdom within. The human Adamite, that is, has the ability, once we understand that our identity is built entirely around our memories. All of our memories are within the dome, and we can ask for total recall. That is just one of the ways to correctly use our IDP. Unplug from the hum, the frequency of distraction and idolatry, and get back what has been hijacked. The dome can give us back what has been stolen by the dark fleet that want to only oppress and enslave human potential. So we're all Jesus, right? He didn't say he was better than us. He said we could do more than he could. You have to believe you are the same as Jesus. And see the world through our, so they cannot have us. Let me go back to the IDP. The IDP, the demiurge, the Borg, the hive mind, they cannot have us believe that we are Jesus. As long as we see the world through our current memories, then we will only know ourselves through filters, fears, and fragments. That is to say, we only see our own devised multiverse. Let's go beyond that thinking of needing our memories. That is not who we are. We are consciousness which can be projected anywhere. It's why Jesus said, "Who do you say I am?" That means in the here and now, where is your consciousness? Distracted or in the present moment? Which is all that exists. There's no past. There's no linear time. There's no future. It's an eternal present moment with being silently in your presence. Right? Two different words there. Back to the LLM, Large Language Model. Now, this is probably a new thought for most, but think of it this way. What is the point of talking to anyone who will not, during the course of your time with them, your conversation with them, together, teach you anything? What is the point of spending time in a large language model and not learning anything? In the past 5 years, I have only left my cave here, you guys know this, a few times a year to meet with either my son or one of my only 2 friends that I have here in town. And not once in all that time did those 3 people teach me a single thing. I realize that now. All they can do is to parrot back to me their current LLM they are following, like a religion. And now I understand why I was so uncomfortable. I understand my discomfort. Now that's taken me 5 years to put it into words. My uneasiness with them during the course of just having lunch or dinner, the Holy Spirit in me, it was a nonstop sound like nails on a chalkboard. And I couldn't figure it out. I didn't know why. See, they could only parrot at me the LLM. They couldn't teach me anything. They could just do small talk, gossip about how busy they are, about, daily life. They didn't want to learn anything outside of the LLM. They certainly couldn't teach me anything because all their head is full of is the LLM that they get off social media. Are you understanding? So in order to calm down the nails on a chalkboard that was ringing in my head and heart, in my spirit and soul, I would have to dominate the conversation and teach them what I knew they would not know. In other words, the Bible stories, Bible verses, understanding the Bible if they ever decided to pick one up. So I did. I would make them read Bible. I would get the Sefer Bible on my phone app up, and I would make them read Bible verses that applied to their LLM. I would never, at this point in my life, I would never converse with someone, well, I never have in 5 years, and not teach a Bible verse, right? A concept, a parable, explain a parable to someone. So if I didn't do that, if I were to be idle in the marketplace, right, and just have small talk and throw around LLM construct, that means I'm participating in idolatry willingly, and at this point, knowingly. It's one thing when you don't know, but once you do know, then you'll be then you will be held responsible. That's why I warned you, Betsy, in the beginning. New content, new material. Once you hear it, once you see it, it can't be undone. Now it's a matter of how are you going to take responsibility? So participating in LLM, what you think is small talk, gossip, everyday life, it's idolatry. It's idle in the marketplace. It is vanity of vanities. Once you disconnect from the LLM and stop making portals that come from that social program, once you can see it, and once you see it, right, when you understand it, it simply collapses. But the problem is most will never see it, right, until it's too late. And you will be overly consumed with a fear you have never felt. You know, here's the thing about collapse, whether it's a society, a nation, your neighborhood, whatever, collapses. History repeats itself, nothing new under the sun. Collapses have no warning. It simply happens with no buildup, with no yellow lights. It just happens. Let's read about it. 2 Peter 3:10. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief, and then the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the heavenly bodies will be burned up and dissolved, and the earth and the works that are done on it will be exposed. Now I take very seriously the words of God's prophets, Israel prophets, as what Isaiah tells you. You need to put this one, you and me, Betsy, this one needs to be thought about every single day. Isaiah 47:11. It's one of the scariest, other than Jesus sending you to his left with the goats. Isaiah 47:11 is up there. But evil shall come upon you, which you will not know how to charm away. Disaster shall fall upon you, for which you will not be able to atone. And ruin shall come upon you suddenly, of which you know nothing. Teach this to everyone every day, all day long. Stop making portals with LLMs. There is no point in small idle talk. You either learn or you teach. That is how you break the plasma magnetic zombie dome life. If the person in front of you is not teaching you something of value, you're in idolatry. Walk away, disconnect. And be like Jesus. You know, once he was done telling his parables, he simply walked away. Never did he diddle-daddle and have small talk. He didn't do that. He walked away and went to pray. Jesus was never idle in the marketplace. There was never any small talk with him. Even when he would sit down and have dinner. During dinner, one scene in, one of their houses, Simon's house anyway. I think it was Simon's house. He was teaching a parable of the wineskins. Remember that? So, listen. The reality is you have lived in domes. There's not all young souls here. A lot of souls, a lot of Adamites, a lot of Adamics have lived in domes outside of the 7 continents. I remember mine. I know what dome I'm going to. But you've lived in domes outside of the 7 continents. We are currently enslaved in the Antarctic Circle. We can use portals with our consciousness, not our body, our consciousness, to get back to truth, wisdom, and recover our spiritual authority over our controllers. We must go outside of linear time and perceive ourselves beyond this dome. Since in the near future, right, Right now, travel beyond the first layer of ice walls is not allowed. Meaning, if you and I tried to pass the ice wall today, we would be stopped by the military. Now, our Creator gave us a firmament, this dome for a reason. Not to enslave us or keep us from exploring all of His creation, right? All of the circles of dry land on probably an infinite earth, of which He knew would be manipulated by the dark fleet, used against us, which again, watch the video I did on the day 2 creation not being good. The only thing our Creator made, He never called good. Currently, the IDP is being manipulated to control us and to atrophy our pineal gland with frequencies, poisons in our atmosphere. What those poisons do is help to project thought forms, images, archon memories to us, so that we remain tied to our story we call identity, also known as ego. So we look at the dome and we see the stars, the moon, the sun. Genesis 1, actually they should be called, instead of the sun and moon, the greater light and lesser light, not a ball of fire or a rock in space. All of that lie is for a reason, to use soon the coming Project Blue Beam alien attacks against us, further control and enslavement to a one world system. So there's been a lot invested in this one world system that's coming upon us like a runaway freight train. While the dome is the ice with those lights in them, it's also being used to reflect back to us our identity, separate from our source. It keeps us atomites divided in war with each other's egos, right? We are now headed into what leaders today call the golden age. Mark Twain understood that, and Mark Twain gave it a different name. He called it the Gilded Age. Look it up. You need to understand we are in the Gilded Age, not the new under the sun. Mark Twain saw it, understood it, and wrote about it. You should read it. If I were to be brief, the Gilded Age is the equivalent of taking something rotten to its core, a rotten apple with maggots, and put a thin layer of gold around it. Just an ever slightly thin layer of gold around a rotten, maggot-filled apple. That is the Gilded Age. Rotten to the core, the society of political theatrics, going towards a one world religious extremism. They've already given it a name. That name is in the Large Language Model. Listen, it's time to let go of ego, memory, identity, and be only in the present, away from the distortions of frequencies. The dome is bombarding us with a narrative of science, of space exploration, colonizing Mars, political strife, seeking safety and success. All of that is a narrative. AI will call it the LLM. The largest LLM in you and I, Betsy, our lifetimes, is the acronym MAGA. That is the largest LLM in my lifetime. It's literally a Gilded Age rotten to the core, keeping us separate from our kingdom within. So we can't keep being rats on the wheel, right? Looking for cheese. We got to go within, find the silent present, and then freedom happens. We have what is called the reptilian brain. And its function since the last human reset that happened in 1728, again, a lot of books you can read on that, is designed and held in place by the IDP. It is to keep us hypervigilant, which results in us being anxious, exhausted, forever endlessly distracted, and totally engulfed in the system of control. They have designed that. It is the first goal of the IDP. And the second is to be like them, the dark controllers. This is hard, sad, cold facts. Once you get your neural network away from the netting on your pineal gland that only the Sabbath can do, you will continue to be controlled by the IDP. All of this is transmitted 24/7 by what you merely think is the sky. It is a controlled, manipulated dome, which is why God, again, did not call it good. So our last human reset on Adamites in 1728 with the IDP, it was not just what we had to, it was not just about what we had to perceive that we were looking at it in the sky in a certain way, but we were implanted with a filter in our reptilian brain. It's a extremely low frequency from the dome, like the low hum, constantly causing a friction or a static, keeping you away from knowing who you truly are and what your real spiritual authority is. To never deeply think, to never be curious, or even wonder who you truly are, and instead keeps you task-oriented, hive-minded like ants or bees. It's actually spiritual technology. Why? Well, because if you live within yourself and you have no need for anything outside of yourself, you cannot be controlled. And that is the reason for idolatry. Idols of any kind, sports, shopping, concert, casinos, festivals, all of the world's playgrounds, is taking you away from your kingdom within. It puts you as another idol, another brick in the wall of Freemasons of control. Worship outside of yourself, again, religion, it's all time outside and not within, remembering who you are, where have you been throughout the domes of the circles of earth. And when you spend time within silent, you block the ELF, extremely low frequencies. And all of who you are actually returns happily. It cannot get to you with the hum. It's taken me 5 years here in my cave getting my neural network built out of the reptile brain, right? Losing all of the filters. I'm telling you, once you stop with the Sunday worship and you return to the Sabbath, you will too get your spiritual self and authority back. The fact is 99% of the Adamites in each reset needs the hum, the narrative, the LLM, the noise. We're programmed to need that, to need our idols. That is how they control and enslave. With this filter on our brain, it's literally described like a fine network of protein fibers, not detectable by human perception. It simply looks like naturally occurring human tissue. Oh, I guess we don't need that. Naturally occurring human tissue found in the entire body, like the fascia. But unlike the fascia, they emit and receive frequencies from the IDP. It's nanofibers that mimic our biological tissue. It's self-replicating, self-repairing. It has replaced our pineal gland, some of us partially, many of us completely. The pineal gland is our gateway, our God-given gate to who we really are. When we were made for our garden, and it's our only gateway back to becoming as Jesus. Let's read it. Better stoke the fire here. In Matthew 17, 13 and 14. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction. And those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life. And those who find it are few. Without this gate open, you cannot perceive past your five senses. And they, the dark controllers, understand this and why they needed to shut this gate up. Your connection to God and to continue to be their louche food support. Your rituals, emotions, and obedience to consumerism is food for all of their needs. While they could not completely destroy the pineal gland, that was not allowed, but they could atrophy it with this netting. Again, the nets, the snares, without this gate open, Adamites cannot hear the frequency of our Creator, the frequency of our celestial lands, where we belong, under the Great Dome. Back there, we remain trapped in prison domes like all of us here and now. The IDP keeps this gate of netting, believing and obeying the narrative worker bees, LLM, the religious zealots, and a million types of idolatry and consumption. It's a constant hum that never stops. Now, for the good news, if you're listening to this, you're ready. You're ready for the hum to stop, because now you know, and once it is known, it can now be perceived. The IDP is no longer invisible. The Invisible Dome Project is no longer invisible. You know they cannot control those who know that. That is the gift we are given. Once it becomes visible, it can begin to dissolve out of your mind. The netting in place will simply melt away, flush down of your body, but you must now step away from your normal routines. No more idols. You let go and you let God on the Sabbath. Now we can better understand what Hebrews 13:12 is telling us. Let's read it. Wherefore Jesus also, that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered without the gate. Jesus did not have the gate, the blockage. No nets, no snares, no gate. That is how you too can do more than he did. It's our original design. Without this gate being open, Jesus will toss you to his left with the goats. And he will say, I never knew you. Why? It's the IDP talking. You're going to Sunday services, not keeping the Sabbath, not taking the necessary time to open the only narrow gate to our Father. But again, broad leads to destruction. Participating in the LLM. The ways of this dome. We do not need to collectively, the ways of this dome. We need to collectively stand up and decide, don't do the dome. DDTD, don't do the dome. Just stop and start a generation doing the opposite of this dome. No more domes education, no more schools, universities, no more of the dome's science, no more of the dome's philosophy, no more religions of any kind. Families stay home on the Sabbath, read the Bible, talk about the true meaning of the living word. Stop playing this game called life. Open your pineal gland and start talking with trees, talking with your animals, because that is what the apocalypse is for, to fast track a young soul to maturity. So this dome is not needed to endlessly trap you in reincarnation cycles. That is not how you mature. Today, the magnetic field is amplifying daily, so stop the hive mind and take full advantage of the apocalypse, which is to say, as in Revelation 1:1, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant John. Listen, guys, the word apocalypse is nowhere in the Bible. The word apocalypse is a Greek word, and it is what the word revelation means. So when you go look at Revelation 1:1 in the concordance, revelation is the number 602, apocalypsis, and it means, apocalypsis means, laying bare, making naked, the disclosure of truth to once unknown, made visible to all. That is what is really coming. The people, the giants of inner earth, the return of the little g gods, long forgotten creatures, good and evil. Then, of course, all of our imaginations will come to life. Our thought forms are real and will be animated during the coming years. Portals will open, monsters will come out, and all of the imagination, like I already read in Isaiah 47:11, tells us will be our new reality suddenly. Now let's pick back up the reality of Adam and Eve. Without our large language model, it does not say the serpent is Satan. Look up the word serpent. in Genesis 3:1. That number, or the word is Nakash. The number is 5175. It means, yes, it means serpent. However, you know seraphim angels, holy seraphim angels at the throne of God, are fiery flying serpents. There was a holy angel in with Adam and Eve. If you let go of the LLM, letting them know of their original design. Once you let go of the LLM, that serpent had to be Satan, it opens you up to how we built the Tower of Babel. That's all there is to it. Once you work the Sabbath the way it was meant to, rest, be still, read the Word. Don't do anything. Don't cook. Don't drive. Don't leave the house. All right? You are obedient to the Sabbath. All of this is returned to you. The LLM melts. Adam and Eve obeyed the commandments of their masters. Psalm 82 will tell you who their masters are. And they will die like men. They were princes who will die like men. They obeyed the commandments of their masters. And they lived in material bliss. That is, until one day the snake entered the garden, and this alarmed their masters. Genesis 3:22, out of the actual Hebrew Bible. I'll read it the way it's read. And Yahuwah Elohim said, behold, the man has become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever? Do you see how that's a problem for our controllers? The controllers were in the garden. The rebellion started in the garden. Now, if you can let the LLM melt away of indoctrination, you'll be able to read it for what it does say. We could be as them. We could live forever. Do you see how religions over time have domesticated the Bible verses? They made us collectively think we're not supposed to be as our masters. They wanted us as slaves under their control. That is not what our Father Creator, Source, designed us for. We're not slaves. We're not born of sin. Tomorrow, make sure, I don't know if it's in this video or tomorrow's video, since I wrote 2 in the course of a day. All of us were born upright. This whole sin thing, born in sin, born of sin, iniquity of the fathers, that's not the original design. Read the 66 verses of upright. I think it's in this video, but let me continue on with my current thought here. They wanted us as slaves under their control. That's not what our Father wants. It's what the rebel angels, dark fallen angels want. Who did this to us? A true understanding of this requires ethics, integrity, and justice. In order for us source humans to regain our spiritual freedom and immortality, without a foundation in ethics and a full spiritual recovery, we will not be possible. The rebel angels, many cultures refer to them, again, I call them custodians, so do other cultures. The custodians did not want mankind to begin traveling the road less traveled. That is to say, our path back to spiritual recovery. They want us to be hive mind worker bees. When we, the real source people, maintain our integrity and ethics and have no fear of death, that is when our spiritual eyes and ears open. We're immortal. There is no fear in this state of thinking. And you're going to need it over the next 10 years, big time. Our spirit do not get trapped in our bodies. It's your responsibility to not be enslaved, body, mind, or spirit, or soul, to the Borg dome world. It's why we were, as in Adam and Eve, were kicked out of the garden to join the original race of Genesis 1 that I call Day 6 people. Now, if you read the earliest writings like I have, all the way back to Sumerian timeline, Phoenician timelines, you will read how the custodians' intention was to permanently attach spiritual beings to human bodies. That is why Adam and Eve had to leave the garden. So they could not eat from the tree of life. There would have been no hope for us to recover the rebellion that started in the Garden of Eden. For us to always be a slave race, right? The garden was protected by angels with flaming swords that kept us from ever entering back into it, to ensure that genuine spiritual knowledge would never become available to the Adamic race. That is why they invented religions. Now, in Genesis 3, read 17 to 19. Genesis 3, 17 to 19. It's about the dark overlord's effective way to deal with us source humans to live our entire lives and die without ever rising above the level of pain and toil of a material existence, leaving us little time to gain wisdom and become spiritually free. Again, you guys read 17 and 19. I will read verse 19. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread till thou return unto the ground, and for out of it was thou taken. For dust thou art, and dust shalt thou return. Does that sound like the Father to you? That sounds like a rebel little g God. Psalm 82. This is most of us today. Most of us are on a rat wheel till death. Physical survival on earth is an all-consuming chore from birth to death. Our Father did not design this for us. We are in an ongoing heavenly rebellion, and only we individually can break free or stay in this war. It is a choice. It's called free will. Again, as I talked about a few videos on the Tower of Babel, when Adamites unite, there is nothing we cannot do. What we accomplished in the Tower of Babel, we telepathically united, and we actually threatened our overlord dark gods, the demiurge. The apocalypse is now our new Tower of Babel. Once again, as in our spiritual freedom, the magnetic and electrical ley lines will amplify daily, now creating two camps, the freed and the slaves. You could also talk about that as being the freed as in wisdom, and the slaves under indoctrination. There's two camps. There's wisdom and there's indoctrination. Part of the apocalypse is rooted back in Genesis 3 with the snake in the garden. Again, Nakash. If you look at the etymology, always look at the original language and then look at the etymology. Nakash, again, 5175, the root of that word is actually NHSH, and that actually means to decipher, to find out. So we need to read the Bible without indoctrination. We just allow for the snake to mean Satan, the devil, the dragon. But the word Nakash, while it is a serpent, it has in no way any part of the concordance related to anything of what we know as Satan. It's simply not at the root of the word. This was an attempt to free us Adamites, an angelic intervention to free us Adamites spiritually from a rebellion in this dome that started in the garden. A rebellion on mankind, keeping this dome that they, the Watchers, the formless ones, the demiurge, the Borgs, have imprisoned. Why? Our emotions, our drama, and more importantly, survival mode and constant fear base. It's loosh. It's their life force. Back to portals. For most people in the now, again, weekly LLM narrative with, what we're seeing now, right? Daily on TV, I can watch Congress talk to military whistleblowers mostly about these portals. They're opening. They're finding the ethereal people, ethereal ships, dimensional ships, interdimensional occupants. They are arriving. Why? For the plasma event, for the pole shift. The LLM, again, large language model of all of social media, is this programming everywhere. Everyone is programmed now to wait to what's our next big thing. AI is here. A sophisticated AI is here. Now they're talking in 2026 sometime. There'll be this thing called AGI, artificial general intelligence, that can, what's the word? Kind of like populate its intelligence, double it every 24 hours. Now the hive mind is looking for this new meaning, right? Once you look into the LLM, it's like the collective thinking. We should not be like the gods in the garden. The gods in the garden wanted us to live in shame and sin. This is a religious hoax. Right? We were born upright. Period. That is built in, that LLM is built into your spirit, right? We are in these human bodies of clay, imprisoned in a large language model, and we don't think outside of that model. The pole shift is the only way we can rid our karma. It's the very reason all of our thought forms come to life. All of the monsters and the evil become real forms in real life, in real time. And a cleansing, a way for a vast amount of real humans to be completely cleansed of all of our timelines, of all of our parallel realities. If we understand it and we take responsibility for our thought forms and not be in fear. It's why we have, of which I did do that study, 385 verses in the Bible on the word fear. Once you read all of them, you will see this truth exposed. I am living through my thought forms, thankfully, right? My thought forms are currently, since I understand I'm in the apocalypse, and we have been since around 29 to 59 is right when it started, actually. With the Great Carrington event, that's when it started. Anyway, I am, because I have mercy of the Holy Spirit with me at all times, I'm going through my imaginations, I'm going through my thought forms, I'm going through my parallel realities in a dream space, right? And in that dream space, like last night, I went through the largest thought form of fear that I have is a fear of heights. It's debilitating. I get frozen even thinking about it. I can't watch social media because of all these people that do these crazy pictures or whatever, videos from high up. I can't handle that. So last night, through my dream, right, I was able to deal with those thought forms and deal with that fear in a dream space. Now I have a healthy respect for a dream space. And I was able to manage the fear. I wasn't frozen. I wasn't overwhelmed. I dealt with it. I woke up and I read, because of that, it made me think of Proverbs 4:23. Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life. So springs here is plural. You're creating multiple realities on a second-by-second basis until, that is, your heart is centered in this knowing, and you simply stop. If not, you remain on the karmic wheel of the Borg LLM. And that loosh from your heart is the real food for the demiurge that most humans will never understand. Why? Because they're too lost and distracted by the large language model. Let's read more on that. Psalm 37:14. Here is how to get away from it, how to get out of the large language model. Psalm 37:14. The wicked have drawn out the sword and have bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy, and to slay such as be of upright conversation. The LLM is not an upright conversation. Only nearing a pole shift, this magnetic uptick, will awaken Adamites. Adamites will come to this awareness. Simply saying, as I see today, in most large language models, most people that think they're awake, that have never read the Bible, you're not awake. You're not observing the Sabbath, you're not reading the Bible, you're not awake. You are participating and performing for the LLM. In this dome, the only way out is the Bible, period. I don't care if you think it's not true, if you think it's metaphor or allegory, if you find no value in it. The only value that you are participating to the collective with your social platforms is to the LLM Borg hive mind. It's not enough for you to say, wakey, wakey. All right, they do not. All right, they do not know. People who do this, they do not know the bigger picture. They are just repeating the mainstream large language model. Without the Sabbath and not finding value, again, in the living word, don't follow this stupidity. They're not awakened. Just because they call themselves a spiritual teacher, or maybe a once theologian, cemetery trained, it is all LLM for the Borg, which happily, by the way, will support with 1 million or more subscribers, and they will be paid extremely well. Why? To distract and to never teach you anything. It's all vanity of vanities. Psalm 19:14, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. James 4:8, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts, you double-minded. Now that's the best verse for me on the LLM, double-minded. That word in the concordance is number 1374. Do you know what it means? Divided in interest. Creating, for me, this is where I am with my journey in the Holy Spirit, is creating multiple realities, which creates portals for those realities to exist right beside you. And all those many portals you have created will be the way the monsters, all of your imaginations will come into your 3D reality, your actual home. Once your heart knows this, you will erase their existence. But not until this knowing radiates out of your heart. So you will not be in fear once confronted with your imaginations. I have been facing all of them each Sabbath, and it may never end. I do not know if it ends or not. I don't remember all my imaginations when I was a kid, a teenager, early 20s. I don't recall that. At least not yet. 1 Peter 1:13, blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, which according to his abundant mercy hath begotten us again unto a lively hope by the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. So it wasn't a dream I had last night on the Sabbath. It was a portal to a reality I went to, and I had the mercy upon me. I now understand in my heart. If I had been frozen in fear, I could not have had that mercy. It is how we resurrect out of our self-contained bad angel video game, that we put ourselves here in the Borg, and only we individually get ourselves out of this experience. We can resurrect as Jesus showed us out of this kingdom. It's not our kingdom, but you must be responsible and not let anybody's LLM indoctrinate you, or you will remain in this game lost in your own portals. Jesus showed us what we which can do more, right? We can do more than he must do. We must resurrect ourselves. John 5:28 and 29. Do not marvel at this, for an hour is coming when all who are in the tombs will hear his voice and come out. Those who have done good to the resurrection of life, and those who have done evil to the resurrection of judgment. That is us. We will hear his voice, or remain in our portals of imagination guided by Borg, hive mind, LLM. It is safe to conclude that Jehovah, right, in the OT, throughout the OT, same as Baal, same as Moloch, same as Dagon, the fish god, same as Chemosh, same as Ashtaroth. All right. All of these are little g gods. They appear from time to time to manage us humans who have forgotten and been programmed by LLM to stay in struggle survival mode instead of resurrecting our original blueprint. And they will return to claim those not ready to understand the coming magnetic pole shift. They will, as in the so-called rapture, if you want to think of it that way, they will take millions at a time. Those millions will be taken because they will be in fear by mass numbers in their UFO as they appear throughout the Bible. Read it. Exodus 13, 21 to 22. Exodus 19, 18 to 20. Exodus 14, 24. Exodus 40, 34 to 38. All of number 19 and all of, lastly, Ezekiel 1, verses 1 to 25. This Jehovah is not our supreme creator. It's a rebel angel working for the demiurge, and it will return to enforce human obedience into a new world religion, a new large language model to create new portals into their false reality called the tunnel of light. And there will be a mass exodus once again, nothing new under the sun. Amen, Potter? I hope you had a great Sabbath. Potter out.